Mr McCabe, and I'd also like to congratulate my fellow co-chair of the all-party group on cycling, the member for South West Bedfordshire, for bringing this debate. The purpose of the all-party group on cycling, we're not a cycling club. We seek to engage with government and stakeholders to get more people cycling more often and safely. And as has been said before, cycling has many, many benefits, public and personal. It reduces congestion, improves air quality, improves personal health. It improves mobility for people who are frail or disabled. It reduces journey times if, like me, you're a London-based resident. With proper street design, we improve street design and local trading in town centres, in town environments. So, and I am also a new convert to e-bikes. Like my honourable member for the honourable member for South West Bedfordshire, I also trialled an e-bike thanks to Green Commute Initiative over the Easter recess. I was a little bit purist about these things. Is it cheating or whatever? As somebody who cycles fairly regularly and has 2.5 bikes myself, but I'm definitely converted. It meant I could do the 9 miles trip between here and home without breaking into too much of a sweat, but still having some exercise, more than I would have had sat on the train. It was quicker, it was easier, and the few hills there certainly seemed a lot less. It meant pottering around my constituency was much easier. And the main thing is I didn't have to wear different clothes, which I would normally if I'm getting on my road bike and riding any distance. And I would advise all members to test an e-bike, and TfL through a range of London cycle stockists are running a test scheme at the moment. So there's nothing in the blurb that says you have to be a London resident. And in fact, most members of Parliament are in fact London residents, some or all of the time. So I would advise people to do that and have the same experience that my colleagues have already mentioned. So e-bikes on top of cycling particularly will get different people cycling, different users. People have already mentioned older people, people with mobility problems, people with health problems for whom the energy of a main bike would be too much. People with balance problems. They're good for cargo, particularly in cities. For people in hilly areas for whom cycling is just too much effort. They also extend the commuting distance that one can do, that normal people can do on a bike. Men in lycra around London, that's a different issue, but we're not trying to get those people onto e-bikes. We're going to try to get everyone else onto e-bikes. And there is absolutely no doubt that the extent of cycling and e-bike rollout in other countries in Europe has been massive, and the UK is behind the trend. So some recommendations for the government that could help catch up. First, OLEV should recognise e-bikes as low-emission vehicles, and that would unblock some subsidy options that are available to other types of e-vehicles. Increase the cycle to work scheme limit to £2,500 for e-bikes, because very few e-bikes come in below the £1,000 current limit. And incorporate, and for disabled people, registered disabled people, incorporate cycles, e-bikes, including e-bikes and e-trikes, but also just ordinary bikes, into the Motability scheme in order to provide more mobility opportunities for people with disabilities. And only by this step change in more people cycling, more people using e-bikes, will, for instance, Transport for London be able to achieve its target of taking private vehicle transport options down from up from 67% to 80%, because if we don't do that in London, London will grind to a halt with the increased population. If I have time, Mr McCabe, I just want to raise very briefly, go back onto electric vehicles. Tesla's showroom is in my constituency. I've also had the pleasure of looking at the new electric black cab. And I've had a test drive of a Tesla. That was absolutely fantastic. I can't afford it. They're very, very expensive. They are nice cars, but they're also bringing out a mid-range car soon. But their big concern is the shortage of three-phase electricity. And the barriers aren't necessarily blockages by local authorities per se. There's an issue about getting three-phase electricity to the roadside or to the place on the industrial estate, such as Tesla's base out at Heathrow. There's issues about way leave, common law problems of getting access over land, and getting access into the high-voltage transmission network. But I have to say to the member who was concerned about long-distance travel, with an adequate network of fast charging points, one can take a electric vehicle several hundred miles across to mid-France and not make your journey take any longer, because with fast phase charging you can charge your car in the time it takes to have a comfort break and something to eat and a cup of coffee, and it's perfectly possible. Thank you very much, Mr. McCabe.